guys? I'm here in Cornwall and I haven't done a live for a while, and I thought, you know what, the whole point of coming on was hi, say hello. I know I'm meant to be on holiday, and I recently on my YouTube channel I did a video, and it was the Hey Joe. No, it wasn't the Hey Joe. It was the Purple Haze chords, and it's been one of those lessons where I think people have had some kind of revelations with how easy it is to think about strumming. Now, obviously, that one, it's only got 3 chords in it as that song, but the one that I want to talk about today is Hey Joe. Hey Joe by Jimi Hendrix, but also done by, I think it's Jim Croce, I think that's how you say it. He is probably the one that wrote that. I get it mixed up between him and Bob Dylan, but Bob Dylan wrote All Along the Watchtower, so that's a completely different song. So, Hey Joe. Now, the thing about Hey Joe, and why it's such a good song, and I think it's really important tool, and I've put this in the title of this video, it's an important tool for learning how to change chords, and this is all part of this thing that I call the clockwork chord system. Now, if you think about a clock or a watch, it's a mechanism, and the cogs in the watch or the clock, they don't change. It's a set mechanism. It always works exactly the same way. And this is my thinking when it comes down to how we use our hands and the psychomotor function of our hands. We want our hands to work in a way where we habitualize chord changes, because if something's habit, we don't think about it. If we don't think about it, then we can focus on making music and expressing the emotion of the music. Hopefully that makes sense. So anything that we do on the guitar, we really want to get it into a subconscious frame of mind. Now, if you're aware of every single movement and every finger placement that you make on the guitar, then you are not focusing on the act of making music. What you're doing is you're focusing on playing the guitar, operating the instrument. And we don't want that. What we want is that, sounds cheesy, but the oneness with the music. And that comes from habitualizing things. Now, I did do a video on where mastery comes from, which is where we have the kinesthetic, the auditory, and the visual. Where all of those things come together, that's when we get mastery of the instrument. That's where it comes from. That's my opinion. So how do we get there? Well, we need tools. And the best tools are the most enjoyable tools to use, and those are songs. So this is why Hey Joe is an important one. Another reason Hey Joe is important is because it uses the 5 caged chords. The Hey Joe chord sequence goes, and I'll just run through the chords here like this. Yeah, so we've got a C. Then what happens is we move to a G, we go to a D, we go to an A, and then we go to an E. Right? Now, you might say, oh, hang on, what key are we in there, Ricky? We're in a few different keys if you want to think about it. You can think that we're using secondary dominants or whatever, but when it comes to soloing, you play in E minor, pentatonic, so you kind of think that it's a G. You could kind of think that it's in the key of G, but really, you're borrowing chords from other keys, so you are modulating, you're changing through keys with this. But don't get too hung up about that, because you may be asked, that's a question I remember asking myself. Now, the reason I think that Hey Joe is so important, and actually I think it was really formative in how I really nailed my chord changes, was I did that in band practice. My first band, we were awful. There was nothing brilliant about it, but it was fun, and we were all learning together. We were all in the same boat, and it was one of those experiences where because we were all in the same boat, we could forgive our mistakes. You know, if I made a wrong chord, then it was okay because the bass player would flub a note or whatever. So, you know, in that sort of scenario, it's very forgiving, which is great. But what happened was that in these band rehearsals where we used to play Hey Joe, we'd probably play it for about 20 minutes. 20 minutes ago, and you know, you can switch up from playing chords, cowboy chords like this. So we play those cowboy chords, and then we even could play these as power chords, which I'll show you in a bit as well. But also, if the bass player has the root notes of the chords down, then you can play a lead over the top, which was always going to be one of those things that I love doing as well, you know, because obviously chords are cool, lead is cool. Chords and lead, they're just as cool as each other, but playing lead is something that I think that everybody aspires to. So these 5 chords, these caged chords in Hey Joe, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on how to link these up, and this is what I want you to think about. Now, there's a prerequisite to that, and this is where the clockwork thing comes in. When we put chords on, so say for instance, if I just move this around a little bit here, yeah, say for instance I put this C chord on. I want you to think about this. If I put my C chord on, notice I always put this on in a specific order. Now, if you have the book, lesson 24, there is the video for that I did for that, had backing track on it, had some music on it that was in breach of a copyright. So YouTube stripped the audio out, which also took me talking out of it. So there is no video as yet, but there will be one. But this is touching on that topic that I wanted to get into for lesson 24 in the book. Yes, and this is the 10 chords that all guitarists need to learn. So those 10 chords. Now, if you look at those diagrams for that, you'll see that alongside the name of the chord, there are your, what I call your dance moves. And what I mean is the order that you put your fingers on. So let's talk about this. Finger 1, finger 2, finger 3. When I put my C chord on, I always put it on in that order. Always. Without exception. The reason why is because I want that to be automatic. I want it to be subconscious and habitualized. I do not want it to be something that I think to myself, oh, well, do I start on finger 3? Do I start on finger 2? There's so many permutations that you could have with this C chord. Yeah, you've got 3 fingers, so you could go finger 3, finger 2, finger 1. You could go finger 2, finger 3, finger 1. You could go finger 2, finger 1, finger 3. Now, what each of those does is it brings a permutation into your subconscious decision-making process that you do not need. Let me explain this. I often say this to my students. If you imagine that you were being chased down a corridor by a tiger, and at the end of the corridor you can see 2 doors. There's 2 doors. And one of those doors is safety. One of those doors, you are safe. But the other door, if you go through that door, there's another 2 tigers waiting for you in there. And you are dead. That's the way it works. Now, the thing is, when you reach those 2 doors, you have to make a decision which one you're going to go through. And if you don't know what's behind the door, then chances are you will get it wrong. Right? You want to get it right every time. Okay. Now, if there is only one door at the end of the corridor, do you have to make a decision? No, you have no choice. You just have to go through that door. And once you go through that door, you are safe. Because you only have one way of doing the thing, then that means there is no decision to be made. There is no subconscious hesitation. Because this is something that happens when you are changing chords. You are thinking about it subconsciously and maybe consciously of which finger you should be using. So that introduces this hesitation. And when you hesitate, that's when you get these awkward pauses in your playing. You stop, you have to think about it before you can move on to the next chord, to the next note, whatever it is. And that's deadly. Now, the tiger is time. When you are playing a rhythm in time, if you lose some of that time, the tiger catches you up and it all falls to pieces. This is the thing. This is why you die. This is how you die on stage. If you get the strumming wrong, you know, you move out of sync with the drummer or with the bass player or with the backing track or something like that, time is the factor. So this is part of my thinking about habitualizing how you play your chords, your scales. Get them under your fingers so they become a subconscious thing, not something that you have to think about every time you do it. Because, like I say, the idea is hand that over to the subconscious, and then what you can do is you can focus on being the music. I know it sounds cheesy, you know, and very, you know, woo-woo and everything, but really, music is a magical thing. This is the magic of music. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that when we put the chords on, we only have one way of doing it. One way of doing it. And this is critical to your success. This can absolutely iron out years and years and years of failure. You know, I've had guys who come to me who've been playing for 15, 20 years, can't get that chord, can't get this thing, and then I show them exactly what they need to do, and they have it in 10 minutes. So this is not, you know, just some imagining. I've tested this out on people over the years. Anyhow, back to the thing. So, like I say, the permutations. My dog's mooching around here. Back to the permutations. So we've got this one here. This is the C. I always put the C on with the index finger, second finger, and third finger. Lesson 24 in the book, guys. You'll see it. Yes? Now, what happens is that can be the only way that I play that C, which is great. Now, the first finger that I put on, and you've heard me talk about these with bar chords, is something called the scout finger. The scout finger. So there's the scout for this chord. So any chord that we put on, there's going to be the first finger to go on. Sometimes it's two fingers, but that is called the scout because the scout goes ahead. The scout leads the way. So this scout finger, I'm looking at putting it in the sweet spot. And this is something to bear in mind when you're putting your chords on, when you're putting these fingers on, is this index finger, making sure it's okay somewhere around about the middle, but if it's in the back of the fret there, that's when you get them buzzy farting notes, and we don't want those. We want nice clean sounding notes, because if a fret wire is essentially the same as a head note, when you press down on that string, the fret wire becomes a new head note. Essentially, that's what's going on. So you've got all these different new head notes as you move up. So it makes sense that if you can see how the head note is actually telling you the best place to have the point where you fret the note in it. It's there. It's just behind it. It's not somewhere back here. It's just there. It's right on it. So we want to get that as close as we can. Not on top of it. Because if you get on top of it, you'll muffle the note and you will get a farting note. And we don't want farting notes. Right, so we've got that first finger on, second finger, third finger. Now, I would really recommend just sitting here and having this hand doing nothing. Yeah, we don't want to be doing too many conscious things. We want to just hold the guitar here like this and practice this and look at what you're doing. Hang on, let me just say that again. Look at what you're doing. Because I know what I know that a lot of people go, right, I'm playing a chord here, I'm not allowed to look at it, I shouldn't be looking at my chords, I shouldn't be looking at my hand. That's nonsense. You should be looking at your hands. Because if you think about it, would you drive down the road and not look at the road that you're on? You use your windshield, yeah, to see where you're going. You use your mirrors to see what's coming up on you. Yeah, you need to look. You need to use all the senses that you can. And if you deny yourself that sensory input, then you're making it harder for yourself. I can't tell you over the years how many students have gone, right, I've been trying this one, Ricky, and I've not, and I'm at the point where I don't have to look at it anymore. No, you need to look at it. You need to have that data input from your eyes to show you where everything goes. So let me just get back to this. So this is kind of this is the clockwork chords method. There's only one way for me to put this chord on. I have eliminated putting fingers 3, 2, 1 on. But there's a reason why I put finger 1 on first. Because what we have is we have the scout, like I say, and then we put the other fingers on that form the rest of the shape of the chord. And here you can see we've got a C chord here. There's a bit more needs to go into with the C chord. I'm not going to get too in depth with how that goes on there, but I think I might have done that on my YouTube channel. But the reason I put this index finger on first is because that scout there becomes a pivot. Look how a pivot on this index finger here. And like I say, this is all about Hey Joe, which is the 5 cage chord, C, A, G, E, D. So we've got this here, there's the C chord, a pivot on that index finger, and then what I do is I scout my G chord with fingers 3 and 4. Look, these are the scout fingers that go on. Notice the position of fingers 3 and 4 there. Notice how finger 3 is in the middle of the fret, which is okay, and the pinky is right up next to the fret wire. Now, it's right up next to the fret wire because that's the optimal spot. If I try and get that third finger up there, then that's awkward. I can't do it. You've got to put that there, and when you do that, you'll see that this becomes staggered. Now, if you notice from lesson 24, the chord diagrams, you'll notice that what I do is literal finger placement. I show you in the diagrams exactly where you need to put your fingers on. It's important because chord diagrams generally, they show everything in the middle of the fret. All the notes are in the middle of the fret, and it's impossible to put your fingers in the middle of the fret. Like the A chord shows you them, but if you try and play an A chord like that old school way, you'll see that finger 1 ends up being in the buzzy farty spot. And the thing is, you've got to think to yourself, hang on, why is that in that? Why does that sound so crap? Why does it sound that the crap? And I'm following the book. I'm following the guy's hands, who's been playing guitar for 20 years, who's got the strength and practiced it and habitualized it. Why can't I get it? It must be because I'm no good. It must be because I'm crap at playing guitar. I should just give it up. And that's what happens. Yeah? When it's just simple things like swapping that around so that they're in the optimal spot. You know, so this is the thing. We need to reserve that space there. Now, what you have in between that C, all right, this is going to feel odd. This feels counterintuitive as well, putting a G on like this. This is how I put my G chords on. I put fingers 3 and 4 on first, and then I reach up for the rest of the G chord here. Now, the way that the anatomy of the hands is, we get these ligaments that form down here, and these ligaments are tied together. There's a strap ligament across here, and it forms like an A shape. If I put it upside down like that, it would be a capital A. It looks like that across there, but that happens on all the fingers, on all the finger groups. So you'll notice this when you go like this. If you pull your index down, it interferes with the finger next to it, the parallel finger. But these are independent. If I pull my first finger down, this finger isn't affected, and this finger isn't affected. So what we're going to do is we want to leverage this idea, and I call this 2 finger groups, and that's essentially where where 2 fingers act like 1 finger. And this is what's going on here when I put my G chord on. If I put that 3 and 4 on there, yeah, that's scouting with a 2 finger group. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm leveraging the idea that these ligaments here want to work together. It's the way that your hand works naturally. So we'll put those 2 on there, and then if you think about it, these 2 form a 2 finger group as well. So we put those on together at the same time. So when we put a G chord on, I scout with fingers 3 and 4, and then I put fingers 2 and 1 on at the same time. Look, this is a cool little exercise. It's so silly. It's such a small, silly exercise. I've got fingers 3 and 4 on. I'm happy with that. And then I've got fingers 2 and 1 on just to practice the change. to get used to seating those fingers correctly, I just take them off about a centimetre, half a centimetre, and then I put them back on again. Repeat that 10 times. Just do that. You can do that while the family are all sat around watching TV. You don't need to make a sound on your guitar. You just sat there just going like that. Getting used to that sensation. This is drilling it into the kinesthetic, how it feels. So we've got that goes on there. Look. Now, I go back to my C chord. And here's the action. I'll explain the action of changing from C to a G chord here. I lift fingers 3 and 2 off. I pivot on my index finger. I do a little swivel on that there in its spot so that I can just swivel round and get fingers 3 and 4 ready to scout for the G chord. So look, there's the G chord scout. As soon as the scout goes on, the anchor finger from the last chord, which happens to be this first finger here, releases. So the scout releases the anchor. Okay, so there's the chord there. The first finger is the anchor. And then what we do is the scout lands on the G chord. And then the G chord just falls into place. This is the beautiful thing about this way of playing with this clockwork chords. It's always going to be the same motion. Look, when I want to go back to a G, when I want to go back to a C, I lift these 2 fingers off here. This becomes my anchor. And I change back to my C, then all I need to do is scout my C. Remember, the scout releases the anchor, so those 2 fingers come off there. So scout releases the anchor, and then I roll out the shape. And this is why I play the C chord starting on the first finger every time. And another way I look at it is, if you remember those dance mats, Learn to Tango in a Week, and you had those mats that you would roll out, and they would have numbers on them and footprints and with arrows and all sorts of different stuff. But it would be a sequence that you would follow, and that would enable you then to be able to dance a rumba, or to be able to do the cha-cha-cha, or whatever it is. And these different ways of doing it. This is a similar process. So we're looking at that from this concept here. We scout the C chord, put fingers 2 and 3 on. Then when I want to change to my G, I lift those 2 fingers off. I scout my G chord, release the anchor of my C chord, and then put the other 2 fingers on to make the G chord. So that's the first 2 chords of Hey Joe. This is why Hey Joe is so important. There. So we've got C to G. Look at that movement. And then when I want to go from G to a C, look how I do. I just reverse the action. Watch these 2 fingers pull back. Look at that action. And what I'm doing is I'm just pulling back there, and as soon as my first finger is over it, then I release. So scout releases the anchor finger. So we've got that first finger on there, and I'm ready to rock another C chord. So C to G. The transition, let's just take the transition out of this. Transition between the C and the G chord is very, very simple. And you can practice the transition. You can isolate it and focus on it by itself. Here's the C, there's the G. This is the secret to changing between a C to a G chord. There's a G chord, there's a C chord. That. Does that look hard at all? It isn't. It isn't hard at all. So you're there to that. Then when I put the rest of the chord on there, there's the G. But I don't need to perform all the action. What you can do is you can spend a lot of time filling in around the mistake. Yeah, the bottleneck is what you need to focus on. And what happens is when you're changing chords is the reason there's those awkward pauses is because yes, you can play the chords, but you can't play the transitions between the chords. The transition is what you need to work on, and to do so you need to take out the filler at either side of putting the chord on and just focus on the transition. So this, by what I mean by that is, if I take a C chord here, there's my C chord, I've put it on, but that doesn't have anything to do with the transition. This is the transition starting here. I've just started moving there. I put those fingers 3 and 4 on there, and then I reach over for the G. Right, let's move on to the next chord in Hey Joe, which is a chord change excuse me, that you're going to play forever. You're going to play this so much. Like the C to the G, you're going to play it loads. So what we do is we take the G chord here, and this is why I prefer this G shape over this G shape as well. This has just got a bit more stability for your fingers. It's just easier for beginners to play. And it's, you know, if you're struggling with your G chords and your C chords, and you're playing it like that, it's just more stable. It makes sense. You've got more legs on the table if you think about it. It's just more legs touching the fretboard. So the next chord we're going to play is a D chord. We're going to play a D chord, and the D chord is really easy because what we're doing is we're leveraging the fact that this 2-finger group here stays on. So that just stays on there. That is kind of that is a scout acting as a scout for us. But what we do is we take these 2 fingers and we pull them down. Now what you can do is if you play a G chord like this, you take your G chord and then you take those 2 fingers off. Just practice doing this. Get into the feel of this motion, because this is what you need to do to pull back. Because what we want to do is we want to pull back and pull those 2 fingers on to get the D in. Notice that fingers 3 and 4 are still there. They're giving you an anchor point to hold on. I often think that when you learn chords, and this is a secret of changing chords, most people when they play chords, they play a C, they change to a G, and then what happens is the fingers are mid-air. And when they're mid-air, you have no sense of where you are. And because you have no sense of where you are, you introduce doubt into your mind. And then you think, oh, what is it? Now, because you haven't got the picture of the chord in your head, the feeling of the chord in your fingers, the sound of the chord in your ears, you're not sure. So you undermine your own thinking. And this idea of taking your fingers off, and then precariously trying to find them. Some people, I've seen people end up 1 fret higher or 1 fret lower, and this, and especially with this less stable G here, you can always come back to this later on, and you probably will do. This less stable G here, then it just becomes, you're just making life a lot harder for yourself. Now, the way I think about it is that the way we play chords, and this is why the clockwork chords thing works so well, is it's like climbing a mountain without a rope when you take your fingers off. Look, so you take your fingers off your C chord, you're in mid-air, you're free-falling, and then you try and find that G and you don't know which finger to land on first. This finger is the bully. This finger will say, well, I'll go first because I'm the more dominant one, because this is the one you point with. You don't point with this one. You don't point with this. Well, you do point with that one in traffic sometimes. But what I'm saying is, this is where you've got to kind of decide what's going on here, guys. You know, so if we can eliminate that, then that makes sense. Now, if I was going to climb up a mountain with a sheer face on it, I don't want to fall off it. I don't want to fall off. I want to make sure I'm permanently anchored, and I would have a rope and all those things that you stick into the cracks of the mountain, so that I know that if I fall off, I know exactly where I'm going to be. So this is part of it. Look at this. There is always contact with a string when I'm changing between these chords. So this is why the anchor to the scout is so important. Anchor, scout. Remember, the scout releases the anchor. So there's the anchor, scout. As soon as that scout lands, the first finger's off. I have a kinesthetic reference. I have an idea of how that feels there. So I never lose that sense of place, that sense of being where I need to be on here. Yeah, I don't lose it. And that's one of those things. You'll know it. You'll know that sensation. You'll have felt it and you'll go, oh, where am I? Where am I? What am I supposed to be doing now? Now, the beautiful thing about the D chord is that if we get this movement here, I often call it bunny ears, or, you know, like somebody likes to talk using quotes. So it's kind of like that. So if we pull those 2 fingers back there, we can put those 2 on at the same time. And then what we do is we put those 2 on and we lift the pinky off. And we don't have to worry about the placement of the 3rd finger being too high, too low, or whatever. Now, notice when I play my D how that middle finger is close up next to the fret wire, and the first finger is more in the middle of the fret, because we can't shove them right up to the fret wire. We don't want them like the diagrams show you. You know, we want it like this. So that pinky, where it is, it's showing us where we need to reserve it for, say, something like a D sus4 chord. So there's a D. When we play the D there, and then we put the pinky on, we get the D sus4. And that pinky does the job there of reserving that space, and that third finger, you can see it's not all the way up to the fret wire there. So we've got that there. So the whole idea then becomes we take that pinky off to get to a D, which is cool, really, if you think about it. Half a G is already a half a D sus4, if that makes sense. There's the G. I pull the fingers back. Fingers 2 and 3 go on. Sorry, fingers 1 and 2 go on. The pinky comes off. Now I've got my D chord. Wonderful. Let's put that together with the C chord. So there's the scout. 1, 2, 3. I've got my scout there. I'm going to pivot on that anchor finger there. Scout the G chord, because that's what I'm thinking. When I think G, I think G, scout. So C, scout the G, reach over, get the rest of the G, pull down for the D, pinky off. So that could be a drill. Notice I'm not making any strumming noises or anything else like that. This hand is nullified by holding the neck here. Not doing anything with this hand here, because anything else going on here, it's something else I have to think about. And there is a thing that says that in neuroscience that mentally we can only focus on 3 + 2 or -2 things at any given time. So what we need to do is we need to maximize the economy of our thinking, so that when it comes to playing stuff on the guitar or practicing it, this is where how we habitualize the chord changes so they become more subconscious in a more efficient manner. Yeah? So don't want to be doing anything with this. I don't want to be strumming it while I'm doing the changes until in this hand up here, when I go like this and I go C to G, the first few times of doing it, it's going to go, oh, this is hard. But it's incremental gains. This is what we're after. Every time you perform that action, your body, your nervous system gets used to that feeling, and it memorizes it. This is the muscle memory, if you want to call it muscle memory. Starts to kick in. You start to remember what the shape looks like. You start to remember what it sounds like, the chord. And then the more concrete those become, then the more proficient you become at playing your chords. So that's concrete. You just know. And then you get to the point where you could just do this, and you're playing C to G. And and you could be like, oh yeah, I'm just doing my C to G chord practice. I'm just switching between these two, scout to anchor. And you could be talking about, oh yeah, well there's this new Barbie film and there's Oppenheimer, and you could be talking about anything. And you see what I've done is by distracting myself and talking about something, I can test and see if that is solid, if that is really, really reliable. Because that's what you want it. You want it to be, your chord changes to be reliable. So we put that there, put that on. Just changing between those two chords like that. Alright, lovely. Nice and easy. Nice and easy, Yeah, doing it. Oh, I don't know if we've got a tractor coming round. So, C to G. Now we're going to pull down to the D, pinky off. Wonderful. Now, if you've seen any of my other videos, then you'll know that I play the A different. I don't like this A here, this version here, which is often shown with the finger placement 1, 2, 3, right in the middle of the frets, in the 5 out of 10 spot. That's what I call it. This is 3 out of 10 to hold down. If you imagine about how difficult it is to hold a note down. There, it's about 3 out of 10 to hold it down, pin barrier wise. Middle, it's about 5 out of 10. At the back, it's about 8 out of 10, and it's going to sound crap. So we don't hold it at the back there. And the thing is, when we play the A chord using this shape, it forces that first finger into the 8 out of 10 crap sound in place. Like I said already, you play a crap note, you're following the book, you're following the teacher, you're doing things exactly as you think they should be done. So who's to blame? You're going to blame yourself. And we don't want you to blame yourself. So we've got that there. Here's how you remedy it. You just switch around. You play this A shape like this. And you can see that these two fingers, what we do is we leverage this two finger group now. Now you can see, I talked about the ligaments in this fingers 2 and 3 here. Fingers 2 and 3 there, look at that. We're leveraging the fact that those fingers don't want to work apart from each other independently. We'll use the fact that they interfere with each other. If I pull that middle finger down, it pulls the third finger down. So let's use that. Let's turn a weakness into a strength. Now we've got this index finger. Now the index finger is a probing finger. This is a Eurici finger. Yeah. So what we want to do is, we've got this D. So I put my D chord on. Remember, I should always have some space there for my pinky. If you're unsure where your third finger goes, put your pinky on and play that D sus4, going from a G, whatever, there. Take it off. That's telling you where your third finger goes for a D chord. So if I do this, now this is something that I call lift, shift and plant. And what we need to do is we need a little bit of a lift, a little bit of a shift in this, because the scout finger for a D chord is the index. Look, if I put a D chord on from scratch, not from a G chord, it goes 1, 2, 3. If I put the A chord on, we get 1, 2, 3. So that first finger is always going to land in the same spot. It's always going to be in the same spot. Same string, G string, 2nd fret, same finger goes on. So this is why D is useful here. Look, you can see that that first finger doesn't move between a D and a G chord. But what it does do is it can move a little bit further back. So if I'm on this D here and I want to move to an A, I can pull that first finger just a little bit back there to accommodate fingers 2 and 3 to be able to play that A chord like this. So you see there? And I can shift, when I move back up to my D there, I can move a little bit. It's millimeters. It's nothing much to write home about. So we take that there and we move there. So there's D. So this is what I mean by lift, shift and plant. So we've got this first finger on here. This is our scout. So I go lift, shift, a millimeter, plant. So lift, shift, plant. Lift, shift, plant. Lift, shift, plant. I'll do another video on lift, shift, plant because I think it's really important. So lift, shift, plant. Now, here's the cool thing about the D to the A. Yeah, because remember, we're doing Hey Joe. We are learning a song here at the same time. We've got C, G, D. This guitar's slightly out of tune now. And then, so we've got the D. Then we go to the A here. Right? The next chord is going to be the E. Now this introduces another lift, shift, plant. Here we have a sliding scout. Well, it's also acting as an anchor. So if we lift the fingers 2 and 3 off, see that index finger? It slides back. It stays on the string. We still have that connection with the strings. We're not having air in between our fingertips and the fretboard. So we've always got this point of contact. So we've got D, A, lift, shift, and plant the 2 fingers on for the E, which means we get this 2 finger group on here. You see? So that's a really super useful way to think about this, guys. So we're connecting those 5 shapes together. C, G, D, A, E. We get that E there. Now, when we want to go back to the C, it's really simple. What we do is we scout from this. See, look at my index finger. I know that my scout for my C chord is going to be this first finger. So what I do, watch, it's very simple. I just put it down one string. It's really easy. Now, because I know this is a scout, it releases the anchor of the old part of the chord. So scout releases the anchor. Scout, release the anchor, roll out the C chord. Back to the beginning again. So look, so go C. I'm going to do that transition, pivot on that index finger to get fingers 3 and 4 on, which are my scout for my G chord. Then what I do is I do the pull down apostrophe for the D chord, put that on, making sure I can see that my third and fourth are staggered there. 2-finger group, 2-finger group. Yeah, so that's acting as one finger, that's acting as one finger. So we've got, yeah. Then I'm on my D chord. Now what I do is just to accommodate a little bit of room for my stumpy sausages here. Then what I do is I move that back a little bit, lift, shift, plant. So lift, shift, plant. Put those 2 fingers in there. There's my A chord. And then what I do to get to the E is lift, shift, that first finger down there, plant fingers 2 and 3 on, and then I get the full E chord there. Then to go back to the beginning, just drop that first finger down, roll out the C. Right, and that gives you your 5 cage chords, C, A, G, E, D, albeit in a different order. C, G, D, A, E. It's a great song to do a drill with. It's a great drill. You know, you need to be able to do that. I also mentioned that you could do this as power chords. And this is a good tool to help you to learn your fretboard as well. If we think about Battle Ends and Down Goes Charles's Father, the way that that works, if you've ever seen that video, then you know that this is G. If you know your E string, I always say learn your E string first. There's G, goes Charles's. Yeah? G, C. Now the first 2 chords that we have is C, G. So let's reverse that. C, G. Right, so Hey Joe chords. C, G, D, A are the next 2 chords. D, A is here. No, and down goes Charles's, and down goes Charles's, and D, so look, D, A. Okay, so we go C, G, D, A, and then we've got bead here, B, E, A, D, at the 7th fret to help us. That's going to be E. So what I can do is I can play this as power chords now, look, so 2-finger power chords, C, G, D, A, E. So you could play it with your open chords like this. Now the cool thing is that E lasts for 2 bars. You want to think about it, play C, C is 2 strums, G is 2 strums, D is 2 strums, A is 2 strums, E is 8 strums. And that gives you plenty of time to think about getting back on the C or deciding whether you want to play it as power chords. G, D, A, E. Yeah, so you can always mix and match for different texture. You can hear how that's different to, that's a bit more rock, whereas that's a bit more, well, it's just chordy. Right, guys, so hopefully that makes sense. If you're watching this on the replay, it might have been a long-winded one, but hopefully you'll have got some interesting perspectives, ways of thinking about how you should approach the instrument a little bit more, with this idea of clockwork chords, working on transitions, not focusing on the fluff around those things, around the transitions. And yeah, I think it's just something that I've been meaning to put together as a course, clockwork chords. I don't know if that would be something that people would want. You know, some of these things that you need to know, you don't know what you don't know. That's the thing, isn't it? So that's my job, is to introduce you to the things that you should know, and a different perspective, and hopefully that'll make you a better guitar player.